Welcome to another edition of Panther Sports Talk right here on WIU. On this week's edition, we will talk basketball with men's basketball coach Jay Spoonhour, women's basketball coach Debbie Black, and also get a season preview of baseball with head coach Jim Schmitz. All that and much more coming up on Panther Sports Talk right here on WIU.
Production for Panther Sports Talk is brought to you in part by Johnson's Automotive Service is a proud supporter of Panther Sports on WEIU. Johnson's is a complete car facility for all your automotive repair and maintenance needs. Johnson's Automotive Service, keeping your life running.
Welcome to another edition of Panther Sports Talk right here on WIU. We're in the studio this week. We're joined by EIU men's basketball coach Jay Spoonhour. And nice enough to coach first appearance over here in the studio.
It's kind of nice. I like
so
this. Spread out a little bit.
A little bit different.
I don't have to sit as close to you as I did in the last one.
And then you won't see it at home, but I have a green screen, and Coach has some suggestions for what might go up there during the course of the game or course of the interview today.
I wanted horses and a rodeo and kittens playing with yarn was what I was interested in.
That'll keep them entertained at home. This past weekend, you guys came off a win over SIU Edwardsville, and really a good effort there, and a good team effort in the fact that had to come from behind. And I know that's kind of showing something for what you're seeing in this team, that they're never out of a game, and kind of different guys can contribute during the course of a game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys. I mean, Reggie had a good game, but he's had good games during the year. Chris was really good. Chris Olivier was good at the beginning of the game, posting up and kind of forced them to do some things. But when it got down to the end of the game, it was a couple freshmen that made really some big plays. And then, you go through all that. I mean, Jake makes two huge threes. And Zach's basket was really a big one because we had sort of a rough possession leading up to that. And he just went and made a play. And then you get to Sherman, who's just, Sherman's played really, really solid ball all year. I mean, but here, since we've gotten into the league, he's been, what do you have, 26 and 13? I mean, that's a game.
Now, you talk about Jake Verhagen as the young freshman, and kind of has embraced the role he's kind of been in. I know early in the year he wasn't really familiar with where he was going to be, and you guys have really kind of used him as a spot three-point shooter. And like you said, he came through big the other day, and it's got pretty good touch. I think a kid that people are going to be used to seeing here down the next couple of years.
I haven't played him as much as I want to. I mean, he can really do some things. He's a good athlete, and he can shoot it. And I've wanted him to play more. For him, it's just been defensive stuff, being able to guard and then being able to handle the ball. And so he is sort of he's really ought to be playing at kind of a forward position now. I think his ball handling is definitely going to get better as he gets older. But really, he ought to be a forward. When you've got Chris Olivier, Luke Petrowski, Pipe, and Sherm, there's not a lot of room at the forward position. I mean, those guys are pretty good. And so he's having to, he's basically turned into a spot-up guy. He's not really a spot-up guy. He's really an active kid and can fly around a little bit, but he's played out on the floor, and so it'll help him eventually, but right now it's harder because he's got to guard guards, and that's, in our league, is pretty tough.
Now, we'll talk about this. The one player in particular, Dylan Chapman, a guy that came on as a walk-on really at the start of the year and still is a walk-on the way scholarships work at the NCAA, and a guy that you really have to battle to get off the floor. I mean, he's a guy that wants to be out there every play, and I'm sure that's something you guys saw on film, and the fact that he wanted to come here and pay his own way just is a bonus for you.
Well, I watched him play because we were recruiting. He played on the same team with Matt Petrowski, and so I saw him play a few times. But it was just one of those things that he had some scholarship offers from some lower, Division II or NAI. And we weren't really in the position where we could use a scholarship for a guard. And he's a great kid. I mean, good student, good kid. And he said, "Hey, I think I want to do this." And we were happy. And he's played really. I knew he could guard. He's played better offensively than I thought that he would do. He's to the point now. We were trying. We would get him in here and there at the beginning of the year. He played 12, however many minutes. But he's worked himself into where he is a guy you can't take out. Even when he has a game where he doesn't shoot it well. Like, it was easy to play him when he was making a lot of shots. He was shooting it in. But he had a bad shooting game last game, and he still plays a lot of minutes because he guards so well.
Now, talking about guarding well, you guys now play a team. You're getting ready to flip over the schedule, essentially. Now you'll play teams you faced before, except for Belmont a little bit later in the year. It'll be the only time you play them. Tennessee Martin's the team you play first on Thursday night this week, a team that got you down there. Martin's a hard place to play in. You've been there now twice, and it's just a big cavernous gym, and a lot of times they don't draw big crowds. And I don't know if that's what kind of makes teams not play well there, or if there's some other things they do.
Team. I mean, I think it's they have good players. I mean, I think it's that as much as anything. I mean, I never thought that the gym had that much to do with it. If you go to some places that's really hard to play because it's real loud. They've got. I mean, Miles Taylor is a really good player. I mean, he's a guy that you have to worry about inside, because if you don't have a plan for him, he's gonna light you up. And then they've got probably the best outside shooter in the league with Libo. But then the guys that ended up, when we talked about this at the time, the Oldham and Terrence Smith are two really good guards. And it's just really hard to focus in. It's easy to focus in on one or two guys. Yeah. But you get into thinking about focusing on 2 or 3 perimeter players, and it's tough, especially for us. It's going to run into the same thing that we had with Edwardsville, where we're going to have forwards guarding guards. And that's what we ran into down there, and we couldn't stay in front of them very well. We won the battle inside, but they won the battle on the outside, and so we've got to do a better job containing them outside. I mean, those guards can really, really score.
Now, the fact that you guys have already played them, and it's really a fresh game in terms of memory and basketball senses, and the fact you only played them about 2 weeks ago. Same thing with the team you'll play on Saturday in Southeast Missouri, a team that you beat down in Cape Girardeau. Does that help when you're now prepping to play this team that you? Is it easier to prep that you lost to them to kind of get the guys to focus, or that you've beaten a team? And I guess are there different ways of preparing for these two teams now that you split those games on the road?
The time aspect is easier because you can say, hey, this guy can shoot it, and they remember. But whether you win or lose, I think there's probably some guys that say, hey, we need to go get this one back. I mean, I think that players think that way. I would guess that Southeast Missouri is going to feel that way. They feel like they didn't play very well, and they didn't shoot it well for sure at their place. We shot it pretty well. So I'm sure that they felt like there's one they let slip away. They want to try to get it back. Those things all go on, especially when it's only been a couple of weeks. It's good that I think from a coaching standpoint, you get to say, remember this guy, and they don't have to go back into their memory banks and think very hard.
Now, on top of that, you guys will play them in the same order you played them in last time, to where you have a few more days to prep for UT Martin, and then not as much for Southeast Missouri. With the way their teams are made up, is that an advantage or disadvantage? Who would you, I guess, as a coach, prefer to have had more time to prepare for?
Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is, we've been pretty good on the one-day preparations. We've done a good job of that. Their teams are similar in that they're both offensive-minded teams. They both have inside players that you have to worry about. They both have a guy on the perimeter that you have to cover. Where you've got Bradley who's one of probably the best scorer in the league for SEMO, and you've got Libo, who's a great shooter and scorer for Martin, and then you've got inside guys. So it's kind of you can prep for both of these teams. I'm glad that they're similar. I know that. I mean, when I was at UNLV, we had 1 week. Who'd we have? Wyoming. You would play New Mexico, and then you'd play Air Force. Well, New Mexico's going to score 110 points a game, and Air Force was running the Princeton offense. And you'd play them with 1 day to prepare. That was no fun. This is a little bit better.
All right, and the fact that you guys will have some good promotions going on, the white out on schedule for Thursday night, encouraging everybody to wear white, hopefully a big crowd against UT Martin. We're hoping the white is not on the ground.
Right.
And then the Superstars, which I don't know if you've seen before yet or not, they'll be here on Saturday. I think Rachel Hansen, our marketing person, has been pumping your kids up to get excited about
I've heard about them at home. The Superstars are inflatable animals that terrorize the opposing team and run around and do fun stuff and play basketball. And so, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun. We've had them here a couple years ago, Coach. I appreciate your time. Best of luck at both those games. Remember, 7 o'clock Thursday against UT Martin, 2 o'clock on Saturday against Southeast Missouri. We'll be right back with EIU Women's Basketball Coach Debbie Black.
Smith driving down the lane all the way, laid it up, no, another dunk. Petrowski again, back-to-back rebound dunk.
Eastern Illinois Panther basketball is on WEIU. It's a Panther basketball doubleheader. EIU battles OVC Western Division rival Southeast Missouri State as the Panthers and Redhawks fight for postseason positioning. It's the Panthers and Redhawks Saturday at 2 and 4:15 on WEIU, your home for Panther basketball.
Welcome back to Panther Sports Talk. I guess an emergency edition here. Coach is going to go out recruiting here, so we're shooting it after the big one over SIU Edwardsville. And Coach is glistening. We don't say sweating for women. I've learned that in all my years of
sweating.
marriage. She's out there running a coach's camp. A good win today, Coach. You guys picked up a win over Edwardsville. And I don't want to say you're at the point where you need to get must-wins, but home games, they're almost must-wins against them in Southeast Missouri, and if you want to make a run and make in the OVC tournament.
Yeah, I think we talked about it as a group. We know we need to win these games at home. We need to get some on the road as well. But we're taking one game at a time, business as usual. We just got to get out there, win each game, play each possession. So it's a good win for us.
Now, we talked about this on the post-game for the radio show. You guys got good effort in different spurts of the game from really different players. Early on, it was Caitlin Payne. She had the hot hand. You guys kind of fed her, and she made some threes. They changed their defense, and it took you guys a little bit of time to kind of adjust to that. But once you did, then Sabi was able to kind of become the go-to weapon, which gives you a two-headed monster, which is kind of the way you guys want to run this.
Yeah, they did a good job. They adjusted. They took Caitlin out of the equation. We have obviously another very, very good player in Sabi. They went to a triangle and two. We're a little patient. We didn't try to rush too many shots and got Sabi the ball in the block.
Now, the other player that big on the glass, we talked about, you guys had 14 points or 14 rebounds by Sabi, and then you had 14 rebounds for Morgan. And Morgan's kind of, I guess that's an unheralded number for her to finish up with 14 rebounds.
You know what? We've been talking about this with players who they're not playing. So if they're not playing, they weren't playing Morgan. They were giving her wide open looks. If you're not playing her, that means she has the chance to get offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. So she didn't just be, just stand there. So we kind of made them pay for the way they decided to defend Sabi and Jordan and Caitlin.
Now, we kind of joked about it, and I say joke because you win. When you win, you can joke a little bit about it. She ended up being, I think, 2 of 10, 2 of 11 from the floor. The one field goal she made was a big field goal, made a layup late in the game, but it's one of those things that had she had a couple of those other ones go in, I mean, she's talking double-double, like, 15, 16 points.
Yeah, she would have had a career night. I mean, and you know what? To be honest, I like the shots she took. They're good, wide-open looks. No one really knows that this player can score. She got good looks. I didn't want her to be baited into it too much because she was missing. But the fact remains, she got rebounds, she did other things, and we put on a W.
Now, the other thing is the numbers you look at. Jordan Crunk at 10 assists at UT Martin had a higher number of turnovers you want. Today, you look at her numbers, and we talked about that. If that's the number you can circle in there, 9 assists, 1 turnover, that's the ratio you'll go with all day.
I'll tell you, 9 assists and 1 turnover, I said some of the best in the game are 4 to 1. That's a ratio you look at for great point guards. Jordan's starting to get it. She had 19 assists in 2 games, and that's pretty darn good. She's understanding it's more important for her to set people up than it is for her to score.
All right, Coach, that's going to wrap it up. I know you guys are heading out the road for recruiting. We'll be right back with This Week in EIU Athletics.
Panther fans, here's what's going on in Panther athletics. Men's basketball went 1-1 last week with both games at Lance Arena. The second game was a winner over SIU Edwardsville, 76-70. They're now 5-5 in OVC play and 8-14 overall. Women's basketball improves to 9-12 overall and 4-6 in OVC play, with a winner over SIU Edwardsville in OVC play, 71-61. And track last weekend competed at the Northern Iowa meet, and EIU posted 6 first-place finishes. Swimming with their regular season finale last Friday at Padovan Pool as they took on St. Louis. The men's team fell to St. Louis 200-60. They're now 0-8 on the season. And the women's team fell 170-92 to St. Louis. They're now 2-7 on the season. Men's tennis is now 1-1 on the season as they lost 7-0 to the Spartans of Michigan State. And women's tennis starts the season 2-0 with a 9-0 win at St. Francis, Illinois. Now here's what to watch for this week. On Thursday, men's basketball at Lance Arena as they take on OVC West rival UT Martin at 7 o'clock. You can listen to that game on Hitmix 88.9 WEIU. On Friday, softball gets their 2014 season underway as they're in Chicago for a weekend tourney at Illinois Chicago. They'll take on the host Flames at 1 o'clock, and then at 3:30 they'll take on IUPUI. Also on Friday, women's tennis hosts Southern Illinois at 2 o'clock over in Danville. And track begins a 2-day run at the Notre Dame Mayo Meet with competition starting at 3 o'clock. On Saturday, track wraps up competition at the Notre Dame Mayo Meet with competition starting at 9 a.m. Men's tennis is at Ball State at 12 o'clock for a match. Softball continues play at the UIC tourney with games against Illinois at 11 o'clock and then another game against IUPUI at 2 o'clock. And it's a Panther basketball doubleheader at Lance Arena as both the men's and women's teams take on Southeast Missouri State. The men's game at 2, the women's game at 4:15. You can watch both games on WEIU TV or listen to them on Hitmix 88.9 WEIU. On Sunday, softball with their final game at the UIC tourney. They'll take on Western Illinois at 9 o'clock in the morning. And men's tennis with a road match at St. Francis, Illinois at 4:45. For Panther Sports Talk, I'm Ramin Kerbasian.
And welcome back to Panther Sports Talk. We now turn our attention to some of the spring sports as we have an EIU preview of the baseball team, which will get underway here in the next couple weeks on the road. Their first game here at home at Coach's Stadium will be in early March. We'll also wrap up the program this week with some highlights from this past weekend's big wins over SIU Edwardsville by the men and the women. Reminder, come on out on Thursday night to watch the men at 7 o'clock in Lance Arena, and on Saturday a doubleheader, 2 and 4:15 against Southeast Missouri. You can also see those Saturday games right here on WIU TV. Thanks for watching, everybody.
EIU Baseball is coming off of 2013 and saw them depleted by injuries, but head coach Jim Schmitz says 2014 is looking much more promising for the Panthers, especially on the mound.
I think that's the real bright spot. You know, last year, as you mentioned, when you have your top two arms not pitch an inning, it's really hard for the team and Coach Anderson, the pitching guy, to kind of respond to that. And they did a great job, but having Troy back, Christian Slasnick back, just adds a lot of depth to a pitching staff, which I think is a strong part of a whole team. Those two guys really solidify what is our strength. So a lot of excitement. Troy Barton I thought would be back more into March. Really ready, but he's way ahead of schedule. And, again, real excited about what he brings to the table, given us that a guy that won 9 games, 2 years ago says a lot.
I think we're looking good. The pitching staff is looking really good with Troy coming back, and Bourne's, he stepped up to another level this year. I played against him during the summer, and he was unreal. And so it's good to have Troy back, and Joe Greenfield's throwing good again. Joe Hansmeyer's throwing good. But I'm really excited about our pitching staff. We're hitting a lot better than we have in the past during these early practices, so I'm excited.
One upperclassman returning to the Panthers in 2014 is catcher Jacob Reese, who enters his 4th year starting behind the dish. He said all that experience has its advantages and disadvantages.
It's huge. Like, I know what their ball's going to do normally. Some guys have some tail, some guys have some sink. So I can kind of cheat to each way. So it helps me, helps them get more strikes. So it makes things a lot easier.
As we go over the lineup all the time, I mean, our strength is our pitching staff, and he's able to handle that pitching staff. He's able to come into Coach Anderson and converse a little bit about what's working, what's not working. But more than that, there's no runners advance on us. So it's not balls in the dirt, balls off the glove. So that's the big key. When you give the other team freebies and advancing on the bases, we know that it's not going to happen. Our pitchers feel comfortable burying pitches in the zone. So, and like I said, he's a senior. This is the last year, and this will be a good one to go out with a couple wins here.
It is an advantage. I'm a lot more relaxed. The thing is about being in the OVC for 4 years now, they know every weakness you have. But I feel like my swing's gotten better, so I'm excited for my senior year. Like, I'm relaxed, I'm ready to go.
In addition to Reese, Schmitz said he'll be looking to some veterans as well as some new players to fill spots in the lineup left by departing players from a year ago.
Defensively, I don't think they're going to replace Nick Priestman. I mean, he really was probably one of the better center fielders I've ever had. Caleb Howe has a little better speed, but again, a guy that's going to go to center field and handle that. Second base is Mitch Gasparo, a sophomore that played a lot last year. Again, feel really good about what he's done. These are great guys that we lost, but every year that happens. First base is kind of up in the air right now with Adam Casson from Parkland, along with Canberra, who's basically done everything for us. Played the outfield, played third. Cam's a senior, got a lot of stronger, so we have a couple options over there. But I think the big key with the offense is that we've stressed and stressed and stressed some of the short game, and right now I think we have some people that can really do some things. I think Mitch Gasparo has a chance to really get to that 15 stolen base plateau. Shortstop is now Marshawn Taylor, the freshman out of Simeon, really phenomenal bunter. So, I think we have different ways to score, and these guys are really buying into what we have to do to score.
Well, Caleb Howell for sure. I mean, he batted like 370 last year. And then Brant, he just gets better every year. I expect him to do big things, and I'd like to see Dimitri do well this year. He's a big boy, so I think he can really help us out.
Well, I think they know they're a year older. They switch different rules. I think middle of the lineup guys, we're gonna move Caleb Howell to the third slot. I mean, he's been a leadoff hitter. It's a really hard move for me. I don't like moving him from that because you bat 370. It's kind of nice to have him come up, but Mitch Gasparo will lead off. So Caleb's going to give us a 3-slot guy, Dimitri Volek in the middle lineup, and then Jake right behind him. So. These guys know how disappointed we were last year. The fall, like everyone, is real exciting. But right now we're getting healthy, and that's real exciting because last year we didn't have that.
The Panthers opened their season at Louisiana Lafayette, and while the weather in Illinois has made it hard to practice outdoors, both Reese and Schmitz say the pre-conference schedule is a welcome challenge.
Since we go down south, it's going to be difficult. I mean, they're great teams, so they've been outside this whole time practicing, and we kind of lucked out we have a giant field house, so it's kind of good to stretch it out, throw it and everything. And we get to see somewhat where the ball's going when we take BP because we didn't close everything. But it is a disadvantage because, I mean, the hops on the field house floor are a lot different than they would be on the grass and all that. But I think we have prepared pretty well this year. I think we're going to be fine.
My wife said I'm trying to be fired. You do scheduling years in advance. Lafayette, led this country in home runs last year, 23rd in the nation. Arkansas, Mississippi State's ranked 2nd, Vanderbilt 5th, Louisville 6th. So it's a really tough schedule. It has to be one of the toughest we've ever had. We're an older team, so in pitching's good, so we'll handle that. It's what we have to do. We have to go south. We need guaranteed money to get the budget intact, and Mrs. Burke understands that. So, we're playing some people that are really tough, and hope that'll allow me to figure out some lineup situations based on how we do.
We have a phrase every year. It's all in this year. I feel like everybody's buying into what we're about at EIU, so I'm excited. I know in the past, last year we weren't very close-knit, and this year I feel like everybody is coming together as one, so I'm excited for it.
Reporting for Panther Sports Talk, I'm Brad Kupier.
Salisic passed into the right corner to Davis. Now to Salisic on the wing. Cross-court pass batted away. Blanford with a steal. He's got a breakaway and a dunk for Sherm Blanford. He got away with a little hang on the rim too at the end of that.
He did, but boy, that was a pretty impressive dunk. He threw that down with some authority.
It was a rim rocker. Shot fake and a dribble, takes it in, now to Verhagen at the point, 3-pointer, good! Big bucket by the freshman Verhagen. Zach with it out front, goes left, Verhagen takes aim, another 3, yes! Verhagen, back-to-back threes! Panthers lead for the first time since the first half. At the left wing, down the foul line, Olivier works down the lane on the dribble, up from 4 feet, banked off, no good. Blanford, put back, yes, and he's fouled. Blanford, a career-high 24 points, and he'll go for the three-point play.
Caitlin Payne has it off the inbound, and that's the record there. Caitlin Payne drains the three and now has the EIU single season Southeast Missouri, so we're not sure exactly why she's not playing, but Orasova doesn't seem to care there. She stepped back while Ambizio ran all the way through. Caitlin Payne came through a screen up at the top, stepped back, and has three-pointers here in the first half. In the lead, there's a chance that SIUE could be in the lead. Pass is intercepted by Caitlin Payne, who drains a three, and she's got 6 3-pointers all by herself here in the first half. Good heads-up play there by the junior from Chicago. For EIU, they swing it around to Olsen to Orasova, and Orasova drains a three. Starting Crunk, and Crunk's about 40 feet away from the ball. Orasova gets a high-low entry pass from Olsen.
Production for Panther Sports Talk is brought to you in part by Johnson's Automotive Service is a proud supporter of Panther Sports on WEIU. Johnson's is a complete car facility for all your automotive repair and maintenance needs. Johnson's Automotive Service, keeping your life running.